So I still plan to retire next year when I'm 55, and in this video I'm going to talk about how I plan to do that. I'm going to talk about three things in this video. Firstly, I'm going to talk about my current financial situation and also what it's going to look like next April. Secondly, I'm going to show you some actual figures and show you my budgets, show you what I've worked out to date. It's not all perfect, but I'm going to go through it anyway. And thirdly, I'm going to explain why I need to retire. It's not all about the money. So I'm going to talk fast, keep it punchy. I've got so much to cover today. I'll also clip to another video showing you some spreadsheets in a second as well, which I think will be useful. So first of all, current financial situation. We have a mortgage. The payment is an interest-only mortgage. We've got £141,000. It's on a standard variable rate. I'm talking fast, all right? Slow me down if you need to. Payment is £740 a month. That fluctuates as the interest rate changes. There's reasons behind all of that and why we've got an interest-only mortgage and everything else. I'll talk about that in more detail on my other videos. We have council tax, £153 a month. I've got some debts working out at about £350 a month, something like that. Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. So it's about 10 grand worth of debt. One of them includes a loan for a new boiler, which is about 100 quid a month. Various insurances we've got going out. A couple of things that we'll be keeping next year as well. So that's the financial situation. Our outgoings are around, I think, about 2,000 a month, and we earn around 2,000 a month. My wife works part-time. I work full-time, but on a part-time income now because the income is dropping. I've gone into more detail about that in another video. And my wife also has £400 a month pension, which increases in line with inflation, hopefully. So that's where we're at now. Next year, when I turn 55, I will be able to access my £150,000 pension pot, which is a private pension from when I worked at a bank for 13 years, and also an amalgamation of a couple of other pensions that I had with other places like Customs and Excise, things like that. And also, because I opted out of SERPs, I had about 15 grand, which I transferred over. That was with another provider, and I transferred that over into my SIP, which is now with HL, Hargreaves Lansdowne. I've since more than doubled that. I've more than doubled the bank pension as well. So currently I have 80 odd thousand in one pot, which is in my SIP, and I have another one which I'm in the process of transferring over. It's been an absolute nightmare. That's the subject of another video, but it looks like it's going ahead, and that's about 70 odd thousand. So that comes to 150,000. So next year we're planning on selling this property, getting rid of the mortgage payment. Where are we going to live? Well, we've got this caravan, which is absolutely splendid. We love this caravan. We've spent a lot of time in it, and we're willing to spend a lot more time in it. I know people are saying that it gets cold in winter and everything else. So our plans are possibly to ideally purchase a property in France. We think we might have about 100 grand equity in the house. We are yet to get it valued, but we're getting it valued next month. Prices will change. The house market is very flat at the moment, but there are houses still selling in our area. So we'll just sell it to the lowest bidder. That's literally what we're going to have to do. So hopefully we'll have some equity. We think it's about 100k. It might be less. That's my estimate. We'll use that equity to purchase a very, very cheap property in France. When I talk cheap, I'm talking 30 grand. Yes, there are properties in France that you can get that are habitable, that might need a little bit of work on, but we're not going to be spending a fortune, which is something we can move into, and that's in France. Then we might look into the visa situation, which is very complicated. Lots of income to prove and all that sort of thing. You've got to get in there with the prefectures, the mairie in the local area. That's going to be the subject of another video when we go into it in more detail, but I'm really ramping up the efforts now. We're starting to learn a lot more about what's going on and what requirements there are for visas and everything else. Even if we don't go for the visa, we will take advantage of the 90-day allowance, so we can go there 90 days, so basically twice a year for 90 days at a time, 6 months of the year overall split. So ideally the plan is sell this house, get rid of a load of bills, literally take the caravan, buy a tow car using the 25% tax-free lump sum from my pension, using the equity in the property to purchase a house in France, get that all sorted, stay down there while we're getting all that done up, board it all up, come back to the UK, do some tour of the UK in the caravan and the car, and then go back down to the property every now and again. Now, we might well go down there for the winter months, for instance, so that we're not cold in the caravan, or we could even take the caravan right down to Spain, Portugal, somewhere even further south where it's even warmer. So we might well do that. Sorry if this is talking a lot faster than my previous videos, but I've got so much to cover. Secondly, I said I was going to show you how I think this can work budget-wise, so we need to talk numbers. Now, I've done a small separate video about the numbers, so I will play that in just a sec. Some people have commented about they've noticed the channels growing and everything else. You probably know more about YouTube than I do. Monetization on YouTube, it doesn't quite work like that. And I really appreciate all of the amazing super thanks contributions and donations that I've had from various viewers, but that kind of goes towards helping me create for the channel, really. And as far as income from YouTube's concerned, we're certainly not there yet. I'm still growing the channel. It's just a hobby. If it pays and if the income was to change our plans in any way at all or factor into our plans, then I'll mention it then, but at the moment absolutely not. So let me just show you that video now and then I'll come back to you. Right, so we've got a couple of budgets that I'm working. This is still a work in progress. This is not a definite, because I'm sure I've missed stuff off. There's other costs related to France that I haven't yet included, but as I say, it's a work in progress. So right, so as you can see here, we've got this is the Caravan budget. These are all the monthly outgoings that we think are relevant. I've overestimated on a lot of them. Fuel I've overestimated on as well. So this is if we live in the caravan for more than a year. If we stay in the caravan, we're not buying a property in France, we're literally living in the caravan. So this will also translate to motorhome or camper van, either or. We're probably going to stick with the caravan option, buying a car to tow it and then stay in the caravan. So I've over allowed for site fees. So where I've put 456, I think that's right. Let me just double check. That could jump up to 600 a month if we're paying 20 quid a night for campsites, but there are loads of, in our area alone, there's loads of certified locations which are the Caravan Club sites, and they're only a tenner, max 15, so we should be all right with that. But even if I overestimate on it, let's stick 600 quid in there a month. Takes the total monthly budget to £1,300 a month, and then what I've got it doing is the lump sum after the purchases. So over here we've got the pension pot of 150. That's actually now 160. So let's put that in. 160,000 leaves us with 12,550 after these expenses, including paying off debts and buying a couple of things. There's probably some other stuff that I've forgotten in there, but anyway, that figure there, the lump sum after purchases, carries over to my drawdown amount. So the drawdown calculator over here, lump sum is actually 160. Let's do that. Right, now inflation rate. Some people are saying use an inflation rate of 10%. Well, the CPI, Consumer Price Index, says 3.5%. Currently inflation is at. So let's just do that for the moment. Bear with me, bear with. 3.5% inflation, and over 7 years. Now what I've done here is, so my drawdown per annum is taken from the budget. So the £1,300 a month, monthly drawdown required is £901.80 a month, because my wife's pension is £400 a month. That goes up, I think in line with inflation, but anyway, I'll need to make that 1,300 quid a month. I will need £900 a month to draw down. So that multiplied over the year is 10,821, right? Now on here, what I've done is I've added inflation, so I can adjust this. I can just chuck in whatever figure for there. But let's go with 3.5 for the moment, because that's what the CPI says it is. So inflation rate of 3.5%. In 7 years' time, my 10,821 outgoings that I'll need will actually be, I'll need £13,768 at a rate of 3.5% per year. I'll need to be that my outgoings will be that, not that. All right, that's how that's worked out. Now my wife's £400 a month will be going up in line with inflation anyway, so we'll assume that that's going to be correct. But what I've done here is I've actually carried that figure there, 13,768, over to my annual withdrawal now. So that's not accurate. It's gradually going to be somewhere in between this 10,821 and 13 over a period of years, right? But if I put it over straight away now, which I don't need that, 13,768 divided by 12, it's going to give me 1,147 a month, plus my wife's 400. It's going to give me 1,547. Well, we don't need that much. We don't think we need that much. It'd be nice to have, but we don't think we need that much. So based on that, with a rate of gain at 4%, now I'm being really conservative here. So 4% gain is more than realistic for me. I've always gained more than that in investments, always. Even Scott Galloway, you know, he says comfortably you should be getting about 11%, or somewhere between 8 and 11% gain. So let's go with 4%, and I know that I can get 4% on a savings account currently. So now, bearing in mind that if inflation goes up even more, then interest rates are going to go up, and therefore I'll be able to get more than 4%. All right, but that 4% is based on savings accounts now, and that inflation rate is based on inflation now. But that would leave me, after taking my 25%, and then what's left of that 25% after I've made those purchases, will leave me about 50 grand. All right, after 7 years, at which point my wife's pension kicks in, which will be, you know, it'll probably be 12 to 13,000, maybe then, maybe more actually. Looking at these figures. It's currently about 11,000 odd, so I'm assuming the tax-free amount per year that you can earn will go up as well, because it'll have to, in line with inflation. So yeah, so that's based on those figures, right? So let's chuck a 10% figure in here of inflation. Now that takes me into a negative, and that's based on 4%. All right, and that is over 7 years. But that's also, look at this, 10% inflation. Drawdown required is only 10,000, but I've added the inflation immediately. So I'm taking 21,000. I don't need anywhere near 21,000. You know, add that to my wife's, that's 25 odd. That's £25,800 a year. You know, divide that by 12. That's 2,150. We're living on half of that, right? I live on half of that now, apart from the mortgage and the stupid council tax. So yeah, we don't need anywhere near that whatsoever. If I take inflation out of the equation just for a moment, and then we're living on the 10,000, right, we'd have 71 grand still left over. So, you know, at some point, yes, that money's going to be worth less because of inflation. So, you know, you factor inflation in. What this does is this takes into account inflation over the period of time gradually. Now we're looking at 14 grand left, right? So it's becoming a bit more realistic. We've still got money left at the end of the day, okay? So that's on our caravan budget. Now it's not fully complete yet, but these are the figures that we're kind of working with, and I've overestimated massively on a load of those outgoings. Then we look at the France home budget. France home budget, about the same really, £1,200, £800 a month there. Now this is basically purchasing a property with the equity in the house. When we sell the house, using the equity in the house to, which we think will be about 100k. It might be less than that. But we're looking at buying a property in France for around 30 to 40,000 euros. So a little bit less in pounds, right? 30 grand hopefully. Yes, it's going to be a shell, but we'll be able to live in it. We'll be able to just tart it up, lick a paint, get in there and sort the rest out, right? As long as it's got water drainage and waste drainage, I don't care about the rest. We can get bottled gas, and I can use solar for the electric. And I can use solar for the electric. 4 grand will get me everything I need to be completely off-grid electric. All right, trust me, I've done it with a friend. So that works, right? And we've got all these other bits and pieces, you know, caravan insurance, Canagas, everything. You can see all of that. Freeze the screen if you need to. We've overestimated on, so ferry costs, 90-day trips. Now I did a search for ferries doing a 90-day open ticket, so a return ticket, and they wanted about 600 quid, right? You don't need that, or you just go one way. So you go one-way ticket and one way back, and there's about 100 quid each time. But I've over-allowed, and I've done it at 50 quid a month. So we'd be doing 2 of those a year, trips, back and forth. 50 quid a month is, what's that, £600 a year. So I've kind of taken a bit of both there, really. That'll probably cost us about 20 quid a month, but I've allowed 50. Utilities and standing charges, that's for like water standing charge and for, I say council tax, electric standing charge. French council tax, it's a bit of a funny one, that. Apparently it's about between €10 and €20 per metre squared of property per year. But when you work that out in meters squared, a lot of properties are like, I don't know, 300 meters squared, 600 meters squared. For a 700 meters squared property, which is actually quite small with a small little garden, that would actually work out at about £10,000 a year council tax. It's just not, the figures don't add up. Their council tax is cheaper than our council tax in the UK. That's all you need to know. And I've worked it out using other sites and other calculations that our council tax would be about £60 a month. So factor that all in, total monthly. So this would be buying a property in France and then not going for the visa, not doing a carte de séjour, not a residence permit, just visiting literally 90 days at a time. And then we'd have the property as a kind of a holiday home, if you like. We would have a base address in the UK we have a family address that we can use for all our post, all our banking needs, and dentist and that kind of stuff, right? So we would have all of that. Worst case scenario, you can pay to have a bona fide address in the UK, but we don't need to do that because we've got a family address who are happy for us to use as their address for all the post and everything else. So that would be our monthly outgoings there. Again, this is work in progress, but drawdown required, £811 a month total, right? Then we go over to the drawdown for the house. Let's stick 160,000 because that's what it is now. It's gained while I've been making these videos. It's gained even more, it's brilliant. Caravan budget, France home budget, here we go, 150, 160. On there, France house drawdown. So SIP fees, 2% I've put in, it's less than that. All my investment fees added up, averaged out, and my SIP HL fees are less than 2%. It's about 1%. I checked it the other day, by the way. So we've got term of 7 years, inflation 0, but the inflation is calculated over here. So now what we're doing is we're taking 18,983, which is what my money would need to be in 7 years' time, according to 10% inflation. Ain't going to be anywhere near that, no chance. But if it was, we're doing it from now, and based on what we've got left, we'd still have 10 grand left after 7 years before my wife's pension. All right, we don't need a balance in the bank to show income because we're looking at doing the 90-day back and forth, and I've accounted in for that back and forth on my budget going over here. All right, so that's where we're at with the budget, and it could go up, it could go down. It's probably going to go up, to be honest, but that's an overview of that. Hope that all helps. Hopefully that's made a little bit more sense as to what we're doing. I'm kind of fine-tuning that spreadsheet. I'm using all kind of formulas in there, and I literally lie awake at night. That's probably why I've got such bags under my eyes. Lie awake at night just crunching the numbers, I've got columns of numbers in my head. Constantly trying to work out, how this is going to work. I've overestimated, as I said in the video, I've overestimated massively on lots of things, and just in case I've missed stuff, because I will have missed stuff, and I'm sure there'll be people that will let me know what I've missed, and that's been really helpful. I've sort of added that into the budget every now and again. I've also been playing around, as you can see, with the inflation figures. We've got 10% inflation, 3.5%. Some people are saying factor in 10%. Well, when inflation is high, the markets return better. So actually, if inflation with the CPI was really 10%, then interest rates would be much higher as well to try and counter that, and prices would massively jump. Obviously, we'd see prices in the supermarkets going up even more, and therefore stock markets would also go up, because share prices of things that people buy go up when people spend more. So there is a link to inflation there, and however, if inflation went really high and much higher than it is now, interest rates they would probably put up as well, so savings rates would be higher. So I've allowed for about 4%, which I can currently get in an ISA. So a lot of that money will gradually move over on drawdown. I'll probably draw down a little bit more than I need to, and put that into an ISA where it's getting a return, but it's safe, is the main thing. And no, there's always a risk of inflation eating into stuff, but the fact is that rural France is a lot cheaper, a lot less cost of living than although everywhere globally has got a cost of living crisis, the cost of living in rural France is a lot lower than the UK. I can guarantee you that. And as for healthcare, we can get, if we're only doing 90-day and we're not doing a carte de séjour or the permanent stay visa, we won't need to join their healthcare scheme. We can use a GHIC, which is a Global Health Insurance Certificate, which replaces the E111, and that works for the NHS will fund that, so you can get 80% back. So we'll have a small fund just in case of any kind of medical conditions that we have to pay up front for, and then we can claim that back using that health certificate. We'll also have travel insurance as well while we're travelling. So that's that covered. Travel insurance I haven't put on the budget, but I'll factor that in. It's not going to make a massive difference monthly. So most importantly for me, let's move on to why we're doing this. Not really the kind of the how. The how is going to happen if the why is big enough, if you know what I mean. I said this in a previous video, and I'll elaborate in a second. Before I do, I want to say a massive thank you to Defeffel Blog for your continued support and your super thanks for the channel. I really do appreciate it, thank you. And also thanks again to John Dinsdale 1707 for your super thanks, your second super thanks as well the other day. Thank you so much. And a massive thank you as well to Colin Gregson 8653 for your £10 super thanks. I really appreciate that. You did it in the middle of the night, so I didn't notice it till the morning, so apologies for that. But thank you very much. Really helps. So just a little comment, a little add-on from one of my last videos where every now and again, sometimes I just need to vent. Okay, can you just allow me that? I get a lot of comments, and I read every comment. I really do, and some of them can be quite nasty. But in reading them, it sinks in. All right. So every now and again, for my own mental health, I have to kind of vent a little bit, and I like to do that publicly. I don't mean to detract from the whole journey and everything else. So the majority of the videos will always be about the journey and everything else. So I have had as well some comments from viewers that say, a couple of comments now that say, oh yeah, you should really take the rough with the smooth and take the advice given. Well, the advice given is incredibly conflicting because, of course, none of you are experts, and I understand that. But I get told, don't stay in a caravan and get a tow car for it. Get a motorhome. And then I get told, no, you don't want a motorhome. Get a camper van. Then I get told, don't get a camper van. Get a tow car and a caravan. Right? So we're all in one full circle. Then I get, don't go to France, go to Spain. Then I get, don't go to Spain, go to France. Don't sell your house, rent it. Then I get, don't rent your house, absolutely sell it, get rid of. So the advice is all over the place. So if I was to follow the advice, I'd end up just sitting there doing nothing. So I have to do the things that feel right for me, and that's basically what I'm doing. I'll take on board stuff if I feel, it's like a supermarket. When you go shopping, you don't buy everything on the shelves. You don't fill the whole trolley up with every single thing on the shelves. You pick the things you need, and that's what I'm doing. So if I get comments that are purporting to be advice, I will, if it's technical, I'll research it. If it's going to impact my finances, I'll definitely research it first, especially because one particular nugget of advice from someone who looked like they knew what they were doing could have cost me dearly, which I'll probably cover in another video, but I don't really want to dwell on it, to be honest. But just do your research. If you see anything in the comments that constitutes what looks like advice, just be careful. That's all I'm saying. I think probably what the viewers was meaning when they said, make sure you follow advice. They probably meant make sure you follow my advice, because every bit of advice is different. So, one comment that is quite a common thread is, your money's going to run out. What if you live to 100? You might live to 100 years old. Well, I did some research on that. 0.02% of the population live to 100. And I used to smoke. I gave up about 30 years ago, but it was in my 20s. I'm now 54. I used to smoke. I was actually a heavy drinker right up until about 7 years ago when I gave up. I'd say I was a heavy drinker. I'll admit that. I used to binge drink at weekends. I used to drink every night at home. Not massively, but I used to drink almost every day, and that takes its toll, right? So I don't think there's any way that I'm going to live anywhere near 100. The average age to survive in what's it called, lifespan of a male in the UK is 78.8. I think it was. Yeah, 78 years and 9 months. Well, okay, so people are saying, no, wait till 67, work properly, get some money behind you and everything else. Okay, 67, I retire, and then I've got, 11 years? Not going to happen.
So that's why, for me, the why has to be bigger than the how, because if it was based on the how, then it wouldn't get done. Same as when my wife and I decided that we were going to have children, right? My wife was told by a doctor, you need to have kids right now, otherwise it's not going to happen because of certain health, which doesn't impact her at all. But anyway, that's what we were told. And I said, stuff the doctors. So we waited about 2 or 3 years, and we had children. We got 2 perfectly healthy, beautiful children. But we waited. We were not sure if we were going to wait till the finances were right, and we were like, can we afford this? Can we afford this? We were both working full-time jobs. We thought then that we couldn't afford it. We tried to crunch the numbers. It just didn't work out. And I've talked about this in another video, but it's important to reiterate this, because if we had said, no, we can't afford it, let's not do it, we'd be without those kids. Now, I can't imagine life without those kids now. I really can't. They're all grown up now. But it was another big thing happened. Just after we'd had my daughter, so she was 18 months old, and that's when my father decided to take his life. We didn't. That was completely out of the blue. Everything, your whole world comes crashing down. So we didn't know, but luckily we've got through that period of life, and it affected us majorly financially as well as emotionally, and we've still got 2 beautiful grown-up children that came out of that decision. Before all that happened. If all of that had happened, maybe we wouldn't have had children. I don't know, but I'm just glad that we did at the time that we did. Another thing we get told is you're going to get really, really cold in the caravan or the camper van or the motorhome. Yeah, that's why we're thinking about going to the warmer parts or whatever. We'll just try and make good. People die in the UK in their own houses for fear of turning the heating on because it costs too much. So if I was to just worry about all these things, nothing would ever get done, and my plans would not happen. I'd rather activate these plans now, because as I said, the reason why is so big that we have to get it done, and we'll deal with the rest. And I've worked out the finances as best I can. I'm budgeting as best I can. I'm putting it all on a spreadsheet, but a spreadsheet isn't real life. Things could and can and will happen. So we'll try and keep some money aside for emergencies and everything else, and for unforeseens. But you can't always plan for everything. Life throws you things, and you deal with it. Talking about cold winters, they're talking about winters being much more milder going forward, every year on year, literally, because of temperatures rising and all that sort of stuff. No, I'm not a weather expert, but as far as I'm concerned, when you look up the impact of rising temperatures, it's going to cause and extremes of weather, it's going to cause things like more food crisis, water crisis, that kind of stuff. So what does that mean? Prices are going to go up. So the guaranteed thing is that prices are going to go up. Now that's why we're looking to spend more time, or maybe full time, in France, where the cost of living is lower. But the most importantly is what we're doing is downsizing our lives, and so that we haven't got that many outgoings, and being as self-sufficient as possible. With the solar panels for the electricity and stuff like that. And yes, you can with solar power, even in winter, you'd be completely off grid. You just have to have enough of it. So that's what we'll be doing. As much as possible, we'll be self-sustaining as much as possible, and just cutting costs wherever we can, and downsizing our lifestyle, because prices globally are going up. So the only thing we can do is just cut back. But we live on a really, really low budget right now. The only other things that are going out that need not go out are the mortgage and the council tax and house related bills. Once they're gone, we'll have a next to nothing budget, literally. So that's why I'm walking away from full-time work, because I don't want to be working constantly to pay the bills. And with my pension pot, I'm fortunate enough. Now, I say this because I know that I am fortunate. There might be people in the comments that sort of come across like they're really, really wealthy, and there probably are people that are really, really wealthy who watch this channel, and I appreciate it. But I reckon the majority of people in this country are not in a very wealthy situation, and they say high earners are in the top sort of 1% or even top 10%. So that leaves 90% of people who are mediocre to middling to to not having the kind of finances maybe that we have. So yeah, if I'd made better financial decisions in the past, I'd probably have way more than I have now. But do you know what? I've got what I have now. We're going to make good with it, and I do realise that we're actually in a really fortunate position to be able to do this, and we're going to enjoy it. And I'm going to document every bit of it. You know, if it goes wrong, you're going to see it. If it goes right, you're also going to see it. Anyway, that's enough of me ranting. I've got to try and cut this right down to a reasonable length video. So appreciate you watching in the meantime, and I will see you on the next one.